Now, a day-long summit in Geneva between the presidents of Russia and the United States wrapped up early on Wednesday. On the agenda was everything from cybersecurity and human rights to the environment. Although both agreed progress was made over diplomats returning to their posts, stark differences still remain over a host of other issues. Daira Bondarchuk in Moscow and Toni Waterman in Geneva have the details.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said the bilateral summit with U.S. President Joe Biden in Geneva was, in his words, constructive. And while the two presidents may not have come out of this first meeting as best friends, Putin said they had a pragmatic dialogue about the two countries' interests. They managed to also talk about their disagreements on human rights and the crackdown of political opposition here, and on hacking allegations and elections meddling. President Putin said he and President Biden briefly discussed Ukraine's future with NATO. And he acknowledged that Biden agreed that the settlement for eastern Ukraine should be based on the Minsk agreement. Putin also mentioned another important topic, the recently extended START treaty limiting nuclear warheads. He said the US and Russia will soon resume discussions on the stalled talks.
I think it's clear for everyone the fact that President Biden has taken on responsibility and has taken the decision, which we believe is quite timely, to extend the START treaty for 5 years up until 2024. Of course, no doubt, the question remains on what happens next. We've reached an agreement that consultations will be commenced at the interagency level.
Putin announced he and Biden agreed in principle to begin consultations on cybersecurity issues, the topic that has been an irritant in bilateral ties. The Russian president acknowledged that both sides expressed willingness to understand each other. And while it was hard to say whether the relations with the US would improve, President Putin said he saw a glimpse of hope for rebuilding mutual trust. Daira Bondarchuk, CGTN, Moscow.
President Biden struck a realistic but optimistic tone at the end of this meeting. He said his talks with the Russian president were good, that they were positive, and that there were no threats issues. This is really echoing what we heard from Mr. Putin himself, who called these talks constructive. This is notable because even until the very last moments, there was concerns that there would be a lot of animosity in the room when these two presidents met, because there was a lot of tough issues that needed to be addressed. But at the end of the day, they were able to reach agreement on a few issues. And President Biden said that he did present President Putin with a list of 16 critical pieces of infrastructure that he believes should be off limits. Now they have to find some common ground on that list. They also agreed to return ambassadors to each other's countries.
I did what I came to do. Number one, identify areas of practical work our two countries can do to advance our mutual interest and also benefit the world.
So a little bit of progress made, but when President Biden was asked whether he believed that Putin would change his behavior, he said he was not confident. The real test, he said, is going to come in the next 3 to 6 months to see how things progress, see how these conversations progress, and also see how Russia acts towards the United States. Toni Waterman, CGTN, Geneva.
Now, for more discussions on the Biden-Putin meeting, we're now going to journalist and political analyst Dmitry Babich. He's joining us via Skype from Moscow. Mr. Babich, welcome to Global Watch. Well, first of all, Russia described the meeting as being constructive, while Biden said it is good. Are we sensing difference in the tones?
Well, certainly the United States is not going to become a friend of Russia after these talks. And Mr. Biden, when he came to power, he said that his aim was not to reset relations, to make relations good. The aim of the summit in Geneva was to make the animosity that already exists between us, to make this animosity predictable, to put it in a certain framework, to make it kind of regulated. The United States is now embarking on an ambitious program of building new nuclear weapons. It's going to cost about $1.3 trillion. But until that program is finalized, Biden wants relatively peaceful relations with Moscow so that in the end he can speak from the position of strength. Probably not him, but the next American leader will try to dictate terms to Russia and China, of course.
Well, there are indeed differences on issues including cyber security and Russian military presence in Arctic, for instance, and they are on the agenda of the discussion this time. Have they made any progress on those matters?
No, I don't think these things will be resolved, because these are usually, unilateral accusations by the United States. The United States does not produce a shred of evidence. They just say, oh, our intelligence community states that Russia attacked this facility, that facility. The same story with China. I mean, let's not forget that just one day before the meeting in Geneva, NATO summit adopted a resolution where for the first time it calls China, in fact, an adversary or almost an enemy. They talk about challenges from China. Well, challenges and what they call dangers, they don't come from an ally or from a neutral state. Unfortunately, the general trend of Western politics is the same. They want to consider, and they declared Russia and China enemies. We should proceed from that. But inside that animosity, the United States wants to introduce some sort of order to make it more predictable, to regulate this animosity. That is their aim. But we should not be duped by their actions. These actions are very hostile, and they will stay hostile for the next dozens of years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dmitry Babich, journalist and political analyst from Moscow. Thank you very much.